So this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. And it's the practice of mindfulness as has come down to us over the generations from the time of the Buddha in the Theravadan school, the school of the elders from Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka. What we'll be doing this morning is, I'd like to start with a poem, and then a reflection with a guitar on the refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. And then we'll sit for a while, a guided meditation. And then Jim Dalton will lead some mindful movement practice. And then I'm going to begin a Dharma talk, a series of talks, actually, of 5, on the 5 aggregates, and the aggregates of clinging. And today I'll be dealing with the first one, the body. I find myself in an interesting spot this morning. I've been watching a very powerful series on Netflix called The Outlander. It's the story of a woman who falls back in time in Scotland, and she tries to avert the catastrophic war that the Scots become involved in. Bonnie Prince Charlie coming back and trying to reassert his position on the throne. And it's a story of human madness. And this morning, there's a horrible battle, which was the end of the clan system in Scotland. And they're just reaching that in the series on Netflix. And I decided that I would go and see what I could find about Culloden, this battle of Culloden, this catastrophe. And there is a docuseries, a documentary created about 50 years ago about it. And it's so sobering to see what human beings do to each other. Sobering. And then the genocide, the British genocide of the Scots. I never knew. So obviously this isn't a gathering around history. It's not our purpose. But it's always helpful to me to realize that we're not just meditating to get a little concentration. We're not meditating just to become a little saner. We're actually meditating because this is the leading edge of consciousness evolution on the planet. And if we don't do it, who will? And we can see the absolute insanity in the political world in our country and around the world. And so we're not just this isn't small potatoes that we're doing. This is really important. It's important for our own well-being, for the well-being of our families and friends, and ultimately for all beings. And I'm going to say just a little bit about Easter when it comes to the Dharma talk. So a poem, a beautiful poem for the moment by that mystic of the 20th century, Albert Einstein. A human being is part of a whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. They experience themselves, their thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest. A kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a sort of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. A human being is part of a whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. They experience themselves, their thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest. A kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a sort of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge. Whoops. Wrong place. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. I am extraordinarily privileged to have this guitar. It was made by a man named Bill Schulte. He lives in Vancouver, Washington. You can see it's a guitar that he made using the leftovers from his shop. And it's an absolutely gorgeous instrument. And I won it at a concert. Every year for something like 25 years, there's been a concert. It's called Winter Folk or Winter Fest or something like that. Tim knows it. It's a lot of old timers, and some younger musicians, but they'd done this concert it didn't happen last winter, but they've done it for years, and they raised quite a bit of money, and it goes to an organization that I'm forgetting the name of, but they got Tim may know the name. It's for Sisters of the Road. Oh, and another one that's for getting people out of homelessness. They put 1,001 people into homes the year that I won this guitar. But anyway, I came in and it was up for raffle, and there were $5 tickets, and I bought 10 of them. And this beautiful guitar came home with me, and it's such a privilege to have it. It's so beautiful. And it's the song that has been sung with it more times than anything else by far is this Refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha, which is a fine use for it. So let us come home to now. Let us come home to now. What does that mean? One thing that it means, and it's a crucial thing, is that we awaken to the trance states which thinking create. It's a challenge for us humans because we're so identified with, so deeply embedded in thinking. I don't think this was always the case. Pre-literate people were not embedded in thinking the same way we are. I've watched from the start 2 human beings, my children, who we sent to school. We really wanted them to become functional members of the culture, and we succeeded, and they succeeded. But it meant they spent hundreds of thousands of hours at desks and reading and learning even more than the usual somebody training of humans to live in their minds. So we're doing something really different from that, radically different. So here we are sitting comfortably upright. I invite you to come home and inhabit your body. Dare to incarnate. It's very simple but challenging to do. Come home and notice where your body touches the chair or cushion. It is alive. It is life itself. Inhabit, come into contact with that which you think of as your hands. Notice the sensations here. In order to bring awareness, to awaken awareness in the hands, it takes the idea, the intention, the effort in a way, and then it takes sustaining that effort. Somehow or another, mindfulness helps us remember. Notice the life in the baby finger. In the middle fingers of both hands. In the thumbs. And for this time of practice, I encourage you to take a vow of sorts, to not move. We move all the time to improve our experience. But this practice is about going deeper than our usual habits. It's about the capacity to bear with whatever happens. And noticing also that the body breathes. It's been breathing for as long as we've been here on the earth. And each breath has a beginning. It has a rising to fullness. It has a decline. And it has a vanishing. There's nothing that you need to do to breathe. It breathes itself. It breathes itself. There may be sounds, including the sound of this voice. Notice how they come into being and then vanish. And human experience is bigger than just this. There's the whole realm of the mind, of thoughts, emotions, perceptions, memories, fantasies, fears, the whole realm of human emotions. Our task isn't to get rid of them. That would be foolish. Instead, our task is to awaken, so that the awakeness contains everything. So when awareness discovers the mind wandering, it's already a great success. Simply come home. Come home to breathing in and breathing out. We use the mental factors, the mental capacities of concentration and mindfulness to stabilize where we are present. To stabilize here and now in this breath. In awareness of this mental state. Noticing the mood that's present. The fatigue and awareness, awakeness, balance. being here now as best we can. If you discover that you've moved and scratched an itch or adjusted yourself, simply notice that, how remarkable it is that we can make an intention to not move and then discover we have. Who does that? You can notice how the restlessness of body arises from restlessness of mind. When the mind gets concentrated, there's very little movement. We get more and more still. Because mind leads the way. In the Dhammapada, it says, mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is chief, king, queen. If a person acts with a mind rooted in greed, hatred, and ignorance, then suffering follows them like the wheel in the track of the ox. Mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is chief, king, queen. If a person acts from a mind based in compassion, love, wisdom, then happiness follows this person like the moon in the path of the stars. So we are training something of absolute importance. We are shaping a destiny rather than living a fate. Coming home to the actual sensations. In breathing, out breathing. Each breath has a beginning. It has a rising to fullness. And then a decline. Of course, the mind wanders. But let's not make a battle with the mind. When the mind wanders, simply notice the waking up. And let us remember the underlying, containing attitude that can be held in intentions. I intend, as I practice, to hold myself in sweet compassion. So no matter how I'm hurting, no matter what mood is present, maybe self-hatred is operational. Maybe there's just physical pain. Maybe we're dealing with some grief. I aspire to hold myself in sweet compassion. which is a close ally to I intend to love and accept myself. And the experience of this moment exactly as I am. Exactly as I am. Such a relief to not have to improve this fantasied self. And please now bringing awareness into the contact of the body with the cushion or the floor, into the contact with the hands, that which you take to be hands. into the remarkable aliveness of the chest and abdomen as it breathes. As the life in the face. As the life of the eyes. And let's not confuse it. This is the sensations of the eyes existing in their protected orbits in the front of the skull. And now forming the intention, the mental formation of opening the eyes, and now letting the eyes open. Opening and observing the mystery that occurs. Seeing. Seeing. And if our seeing is such that it's clear, we can look at these little postage stamps and see our compatriots on this journey. The people we get to have this dance with. And so we might then see with kind intentions. To move from person to person and think well of them. Seeing. Well, I meant to get announcements together in an orderly fashion, but didn't. So what's top of mind is that Sunday night, that's tonight, this evening, Candle will be teaching her first and third Sundays gathering. Highly recommend that. She's had a busy weekend. She was on Friday night and then yesterday, for the half day yesterday. I don't think Candle's here this morning. She checked in on the Facebook feed for a moment. So there's that. And I guess I'd like to give you an update. We're getting really close to the building starting on the center. If we could just get the damn permits from the city, it's just very slow. There's different committees at the city that have to okay it. However, the Dharma Hall is now 2/3 full of furniture from all the offices downstairs. It looks really quite funny. And in the next few weeks, all the furniture in the living room will be moving into the Dharma Hall, will be moved into the Dharma Hall as well, because we're receiving another gift. I could, maybe another time I'll show you a picture of the plaque. There's going to be a new plaque, maybe this big, in the size of a poster, in the living room to the left of the door to the garden, is becoming a glass door, a door with lots of glass, because that's where the entrance for the wheelchair ramp will be. But Anne Nato Campbell and Elizabeth Anderson, who is the widow of Ron Nato, have decided to create this memorialization of how this huge project came to be possible with their gift of $500,000, which allows all this to happen. And they looked at the room and said, I think the room needs a little bit of refurbishing too. If we're going to have something as nice as this plaque. So we've had an interior design person, and we've had several very competent professionals come. And by the time we go back into the center in late July, early August, hopefully COVID will be more quiescent by then, there will be new carpet, new paint, and new lighting in the living room, all as a gift from Anne and Elizabeth, a further gift on top of what they've done already. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So when you return, those of you that live in Portland, you will find a very lovely new spot. And I know Mish, who's here on the screen with us, is going to be doing a lot of painting as part of this project. Thank you, Mish. So I think that's announcements for now. Jim, I don't see you. I saw you. There you are. Nice haircut, Jim. And Chris, look at that haircut, Eric. That's really wild. Have you gone monkish? That's pretty cool. The only problem with that kind of haircut, well, it's hot and cold, but also if you're sleeping in mosquito net, it gets cut in the mosquito netting. It's a bummer. So, Jim, would you like to take over? And I'd like to announce also, those of you that are on Facebook and YouTube, I haven't got the sound quite figured out yet, though I might. But I'm going to be able to channel Jim to you, so you'll be able to see him at least leading the, I think I am. You can see him leading the Qigong and hopefully hearing him. But thank you, Jim. Can you take over? Oh, before you go, there's a question from Kimberly. How is Gary? Gary has quite fully recovered. However, he decided that he had a heart attack and a stent 6 weeks ago, and then he had COVID, and he needs to cut back. So he is pausing for now, at least, his Tuesday evening gathering, and actually all his other weekly teaching, and he's going to rethink it through in a little while. He's not leaving PIMC completely. He wants to do like day-long retreats and things like that, and maybe a class or two. But thank you for asking. He's on the mend, and he's back at work. Okay, it's all yours, Jim. Hello, Facebook friends and YouTube. I haven't quite got the sound to work yet. I'm going to continue experimenting, see if I can. Thank you, dear Jim. I've gotten a little fancy here. Can you hear me okay, Jim? Okay, thank you. There, now I am spotlighted. So let me check everything. This is going to YouTube and Facebook. This is going to Zoom. Got this weird thing on my nose. I don't know if it's sunburn or what, but not comfortable. So what happens if I go back to gallery view? There, you are. We are. Hello, everybody. I think I want to pause the recording. Boom. Stop recording. And then start it again for the Dharma talk. Sound still coming through okay? Yay. I'm going to choose to say just a few words about Easter. People often ask, why do you talk about things like this? Isn't this a Buddhist group? Well, we live in this soup. Some of us, I was raised Catholic, some of us have had a large dose of Christian belief. And all the traditions are fingers pointing at the moon. They can look really different from one another. And all the great traditions have a concrete understanding and a mystical understanding. And there are fundamentalist Buddhists, lots of them. There are Buddhist monks very involved in the hatred and killing of the Rohingya in Burma. Because we human beings can be really misguided, and often are. So why would a tradition like Christianity have survived down all these thousands of years? I think the central mythology is where to look. And I say mythology with great respect, because mythology is not lying. Mythologies are maps of our inner life that can be told through symbolism. The life of the Buddha is a mythology. Very helpful. And there's a mythology that comes out of the Middle East. The three great tribal religions of the Middle East, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And actually, if you're interested in this, there are at least two back in YouTube, and I don't think on Facebook, but back in the archives on YouTube, you can find a couple of talks that I've done where I spent the whole hour on Easter Sunday talking about this. But I want to touch the most salient points. What's it about? It's about the escape from birth and death. What happens after I die? Well, in the Christian mythology, there's this story of a person who was the one of a kind ever, Son of God. This is the popular tradition. The Gnostics had quite a different view. But anyway, and he was born, lived a life, died on the cross, and then if we believe, and rose again after 3 days. Today's the day of the resurrection. And if we believe on that, they believe that we are freed from sin, and then when we die, we will go to heaven and be at the right hand of the Father. That's the story goes that Jesus died on the cross. There's another story where Siddhartha disappeared under the Bodhi tree and he became the Buddha. What's going on here? It's kind of it's quite an interesting parallel. And there are those who say, many who say that only one of these stories could be true. But what if they're all true? What if they're both true? That we can talk about death and rebirth. We can talk about awakening to the deathless in the Buddhist vocabulary as a practice, as a way of realizing that we too can have the experience of the Buddha. We all sit under the Bodhi tree every time we sit down to meditate. And we examine the question, who am I? Who am I? And there's one piece of my extended story of this that I want to share with you, that many years ago now, I'd been practicing Buddhism for about 10 years, pretty intensely. And I was Catholic until my teenage years, when that really just fell apart for me. And I became a kind of like I worshipped in the Church of the Great Blue Dome, which was skiing and backpacking and mountaineering. And I was very touched by the Tao Te Ching, so I was kind of a Taoist naturalist. And then I ran into the Dharma. But about 10 years into that, and I was already teaching, I encountered Father Bernard McVeigh of the Trappist Abbey in Lafayette, and Robert Aitken Roshi, who was the first American Roshi. And they did several. I attended 2 10-day sessions with them, very intensive retreats, where instead of Buddhist readings, we had 5 times a day, we had readings from the Catholic mystics. Who heard of the Catholic mystics? Saint Teresa of Avila and Henri de Caussade and the Cloud of Unknowing. And there's all this literature from the Catholic mystics. Sadly, many or most of them were burned because they said the answer isn't in the church, the answer is in your direct realization of the Christ. That you are the Christ. Who is it? I forget which one of them said, God and I are one. So anyway, I went on this session, and it was at the Maryknoll Sisters Convent in Tacoma. Lovely little retreat center. And I walked in, we'd had a day or maybe a day of sitting, and we were doing Zen practice. And then I walked into the church. We also were going to have communion every day, a mass and communion every day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I walked into the church, and there at the front of the church was the same Jesus on the cross from my childhood. It was the same production line. I mean, it was the same 6-foot-high crown of thorns, blood, a stab wound in the chest, and I'm moved emotionally again thinking of it. I fell to my knees sobbing, and it was such a relief in a way that I understood what that was about for the first time. And the message was this: if you take on a human birth, the only way out is death. And the Buddha said, life is dukkha. There's tremendous suffering in life. And the answer in both traditions is to remember what we really are, which in the Buddhist terminology is awakening or the deathless. So that was a very important time. And I got to to talk with both Bernard McVeigh, Father Bernard, and Robert Aitken, Roshi on Retreat. And then I became really, I had a friendship with Father Bernard. And he told me some very important things. Among them, he said, Robert, you have to forgive Father Dernard, who was the priest of my childhood church. Father Dernan, yeah. Who, when I went to confession, always smelled of alcohol. And he said, you have to forgive him because he was a parish priest and had a grade 2 spiritual education. He'd never had any mystical training. So how could he pass that on? So I say that because this is a day that some people around you may be celebrating Easter. And you can celebrate. We can celebrate right along with them. It's another set of fingers pointing at the moon, and the moon is liberation. The moon is compassion and love, and being available to each other in that spot. So we don't need to. Throw. It helped me a lot to be able to reach out and bring my Catholic childhood into my practice, and I still can get quite a lot of tranquility by pulling out my beads and going and starting doing, instead of may I be happy, may all beings be happy. If I slip into Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. That is a very calming effect, because when I was 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, up until around grade 4 was when I left the Catholic school system. So I did tens of thousands of those, and they have a very powerful calming effect. So, that said, I'm having a kind of good hair day. How do you like it? I think I'm impressed with it. I notice it every now and then. There's so many wild hair days. So I want to speak about the 5 aggregates. The Buddha's teachings have 3 profound hypotheses, or they address 3 profound perceptual distortions. The first is that we believe somewhere in our heart of hearts that there's something that's permanent. The second one is that we believe in our heart of hearts that if we just got things together, there wouldn't be so much dukkha. That we could find a lasting place in which to hang our hat, that there'd be really ongoing pleasure and security and well-being. And then the third one is that, and this is very profound for us, that in here somewhere is myself. And we perceive the world in such a way as it reinforces our self, our sense of self. And we defend our sense of self. We get very caught up in our ideas and our fantasies of how things are. I keep being interrupted internally. One of the things that was so powerful in that documentary I saw about the Battle of Culloden was they did it through the voices and faces of actors who were acting as though they were the people there at that time. And they were deeply embedded in political, philosophical, and emotional views. And there were some really psychopathic, sociopathic killers there in the leadership. and also among the men. Among the things they described was that there was a forged document that said they said it was a poorly forged document, and they said that the Highlanders, the Scots, had intended to show no mercy and take no prisoners. And so when the battle was over, and it was won with cannons and it was awful, then the British took no prisoners, and they went about systematically killing all the survivors. And they interviewed, just little snippets, they interviewed the men doing this. And they had ideas about how the other side was, they had evil empire thoughts about the other side. And we're so capable of that because we take our thoughts and feelings and the propaganda that we are fed from the time we're children, we take it quite seriously. We create a self that has beliefs like this. So the work of recognizing the 5 aggregates as what they are, which is impersonal phenomena, includes setting ourselves free from our belief systems and then opening the door to being actually loving and compassionate with each other. I want to do something here. Hide that. There we go. So, if we are going to use our meditation to go way beyond stress management and psychological well-being, we're going to be asking ourselves in a systematic way one profound question. Who am I? What am I? And we have these 3 characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, which are the answer to those perceptual distortions. Anicca, the Buddha said, all things are impermanent. Look upon this world as a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, a phantom, a dream. The second, dukkha, as long as there's a self, there is suffering. And then the third, anatta, which literally translates as no soul, non-soul. Doesn't mean there's nothing, but so the task is to find myself. And it's not a philosophical undertaking, it's a perceptual, meditative undertaking. And wow, I just noticed down here I have the Facebook feed, and it's converting it into print. There's I forget what that's called. That's pretty neat. Wonders never cease. So the 5 aggregates. There is the body. The body is in interaction with the world through the sense doors. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. And then the mind door is in contact with mind objects. These are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, indeterminate. Then there's a third phenomenon that happens in mind, which is perception. The way we create meanings out of things. Some of those psychopathic, very injured human beings in that video I watched this morning, that docudrama, looked at the women and children of the Highlanders and saw animals. They didn't see humans because of their perception, because of their conditioning. Then there's another whole category, which is mental formations. All the thoughts, fantasies, the story of our lifetimes, all the rumination that we do. And then there's consciousness. So there's body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to spend at least 1 week on each of them. So starting with the body. Are you your body? If you lost your hand, would you still be you? If you lost your eyes, your sight, would you be you? If you lost both arms and both legs, if you became quadriplegic, would you be you? Which part of this is me? And so one of the practices that the Buddha taught, or at least it is ascribed to the Buddha, is known as the 32 parts of the body. Now, 32 parts, there are tens of thousands of parts of the body, but there's a list of 32, which for 2,600 years, human beings have practiced visualizing. For instance, hair of the head. We go to great lengths, some of us go to great lengths to have our hair be a particular way. It's funny how naive we can be. And I don't notice such things very much, but I married Jennifer. We'd been in a relationship for quite some time, and I married her, and we moved in together with each other. And I discovered that she colored her hair, and I was kind of shocked. Her hair went colorless in her late 20s. And think of the money, the effort we do with our hair to make our hair look a special way. And what is it really? It's just hair. Hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. So a way to practice, to develop some dispassion in a way toward the body, it's called the 32 parts of the body meditation. And when I visited Wat Pah Nanachat in Thailand, I discovered, or was told, that most of the monks, most of the time, were doing 32 parts of the body meditation. That's their central practice. And at the center of Wat Pah Nanachat, the road comes in and makes a loop. And at the center of that is a cremation spot that it's bricks, and there's an open channel, and the people from town, from the city, come out, and they bring wood, and they bring the body of their loved one, and they cremate it right there. And you can sit and watch. It's very common. Heavy. I know when I cremated my dad's body, it was before Vancouver, BC got their fancy new place, which I took my mother to that one. But in my father's case, it was just me and the cremation man. And I got to put the box in and turn on the switches, and then I peeked in just for a little bit. It got to be more than I could deal with rather quickly, but it was very interesting. Cremation, changing, burning up. So the way one does this practice is you imagine hair of the head, create an image, and then maybe touch your own hair. And then you ask the question, is this me? Am I my hair? Hair of the head. And then there's hair of the body. Is this me? And there's a very specific purpose for this. It's with the intention of addressing our profound attachment and identification with this body that is so clearly me, apparently. So if I can pull it off here, I have a slideshow that I want to share with you. It'll be too fast. But I'm going to do my best. I will try to get this. I think I figured out technology learning. I'm going to put this, I think, on my blog today. I think I figured out how to get it up there. So I invite you to take a deep breath or so and sit upright. And then to think of this as a contemplation about your own body. Now, how do I do it? I do this. That's not the way I want it. Okay, so I have to change something here. Well, would this work? Let me see. Share. Jim, does that have... It has, is this myself? Yes? Okay, now I'm going to see if I can get that to show on Facebook as well. How do I do that? Yikes. I had it for a bit. Screen capture. There we go. Please bear with me a moment. I'm going to see if I can... I may have to bail on the Facebook side of things, folks. I don't want to spend a long time doing this. I'm going to do this. So let me try this. Is this myself over to here? Okay. Now. All right. That might do it for Facebook. Let's see. And now can I get it back on here? Ooh, too many variables. Lots of variables up in the air. Okay. I see it's not arrived yet, right, Jim? Okay. Well, that's not good. Oh, is it there? Okay. All right. So, all right. Thanks, Jim. Hair of the head, carefully cared for, seen as attractive sometimes. Hair in its absence. Hair of the body. Is my hair me? To what are we attracted? From what are we repulsed? Nails. Why do we go to such lengths to make the nails beautiful? Teeth. When your mind wanders, just come back to the image and the contemplation. Teeth. Am I my teeth? Skin. The largest organ in the body. Flesh, muscle. Am I my muscles? This is cadaver muscle. This is the muscle we purchase for dinner. Or some of us anyway. Tendons. Am I my tendons? Oh, I think the picture didn't work to Facebook. I'm sorry. Tendons, where muscle becomes... Oops. Oh, I stopped sharing. Sorry. Wrong button. There we go. You're back, I think. Tendons. Bones. Am I my bones? In the catacombs in Rome, this is an interesting one for me. If you take your hand and feel the rim of the orbit of the eye, and you can discover, it's really true. One of these is in me, or what I take to be me. Bones. And it's possible as these pictures come in that they have an emotional impact. We want to look away. It's like, ugh. We have a lot of denial about this fact. These are the bones of the foot. Bone marrow. Right now, our bone marrow is building our red blood cells, doing lots of other things. Kidneys. Right now, the kidneys are working away, purifying the blood. Kidney. Am I my kidneys? Heart. Now, of course, we could take any one of these pictures, any one of these contemplations, and spend hours with it. Diagram of the heart. Remarkably complex. Right now, you might put your hand on your heart and feel it's beating away. Here are the arteries of the heart. One of my arteries has a fancy little stent in it. Saved my life. A human heart. Liver. The chemistry center of the body. Liver. Am I my liver? Is my liver me? The lung sac. spleen tucked up on the left side under your ribs. Also busy doing purification things. And we can live without a spleen, remarkably. Spleen. Now I recognize this is getting to be a lot, but I want to just go on and finish the list. The lungs themselves. Smoker's lungs. Sheep lungs. The intestines. There's a tube that runs from the mouth to the anus. Somehow or another taking what's necessary and helpful out of the food. It's long. The colon. This is colonoscopy territory. That's in us. The collective tissue, the connective tissue that holds the gut in place and provides it with blood supply. Am I this? This is in me, am I? Is this fundamentally who I am? Contents of the stomach. Waste. Output. Brain. Am I my brain? Right now, this exists in us. Is it who we are? Brain. This is the brain that's been subjected to formaldehyde. Bile. Mucus. Pus. Heavy, isn't it? Powerful. Blood. Right now, the blood is coursing through all of our veins and arteries. The gift of blood. Primitive humans. Red blood cells. And that's something. Sweat. Am I my sweat? There's one of my heroes. Fat. Tears. Which of these parts of the body am I? lymph, saliva, these are colorful. The oil of the joints. Am I this body? So coming back to that, there we are. So that was a lot in a very quick shot at it. How do you feel? Is it unsettling at all? At different times, this very slideshow has different effects on me. But I find it to be very calming, actually, over time. It's not going to last, this body of mine. It's getting a little more crotchety all the time. I have a little ritual that I do several times a day, some days, which is to get out of the car. Stiff. Bent over. There's kind of like an effort of will to kind of hurl myself upward. And then there's the stiffness in the right hip. And then the first few steps are stiff. And there's all the responsiveness, liking, disliking, fear, blah, blah, blah. But it's also such a relief to objectify it. Oh, this is an aging body. Is it who I am? And then there's a possibility of going off into theory and fantasy. Well, no, it's not. And that's not the practice. The practice is to just be with it as it is and to notice it with some growing objectivity. And sometimes at different places in our lives, different times in our lives, there's attraction to other bodies. That's a very useful place to practice 32 part of the body meditation too. Right? If one happened to be in some kind of overwhelming attractive circumstance, one could burrow a little deeper and say, oh my goodness, that's such an attractive liver this person has. Or how about the contents of the stomach of this person? It's a different fantasy. So Jim taught a very beautifully done mindfulness of movement today. Watching the body do this and do that. That's a wonderful part of mindfulness of body contemplation. The body as one of the 5 aggregates. The aggregates of clinging, to the degree we think we are this, to the degree we are creating a self as this, from this, we will suffer. So there are practices to do very kindly, lovingly. The idea is not to create aversion or disgust or hatred of the body. It's to come to some place of greater neutrality. So, I will do my best to get this onto my... In fact, I'll do it right after we hang up here. It's funny, hang up. But I hope it's of interest to you. I know for a long time I didn't really see the place of this kind of meditation in my practice, but it's come to find a place of a lot of honor and some infrequent, I've spent some time really focused on it, but infrequent visiting of it. It's like, oh, right. This is the body. So that said, maybe let's take one question or comment, just so it's a little bit of a back and forth, and then we'll end with our song. Anybody have anything you'd like to share? And I'm not sure if my sound is working. Jim, would you wave if someone... It's good, but I'm not sure if someone spoke, if I would hear. Okay, well, this is a lot. This is a very different facet of the practice, so it could strike us speechless. So I will be back among you, if you wish, tomorrow morning at 7. Tuesday morning at 6:30, we will have the mindful rockin' out from 6:30 to 7. And I'll look forward to seeing you then. So if you'd like to unmute, I haven't seen any kids this morning, but we're all kids. If you'd unmute yourselves and we can sing our parting song. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Please have a lovely day, my friends, and enjoy Easter. Remembering the deathless. Bye-bye. Thank you all for coming. Bye, Cricket. Oh, it's so nice to see all of you. Thank you, Cricket. Goodbye, Sherry. Did you got your shots, right? Oh, she's gone. All right. She did shoot out of here. All right. Bye-bye. Goodbye, dear friends on Facebook. Sorry, I missed the thing with the slideshow, but I was close. Getting better. Bye-bye.